Delta Force might well become your next online multiplayer game, as this high quality and addictive free-to-play title is finally coming to console on August the 19th. So stay tuned for the next few minutes to get a brief overview of what the three main game modes are, what I found out when testing the new controller support, and how to download it when you've ultimately decided that you definitely need to give this a go. Got FOMO yet? You're almost getting 3 separate games in one with Delta Force. The weapons and equipment overlap, but that's pretty much it. It's a bit like the difference between Zombies, Warzone and multiplayer in Call of Duty. There's the Warfare mode, which is a large-scale battlefield type game set in the near future. The Operations mode, set in the same world but is a tactical extraction shooter. And the Black Hawk Down solo campaign based off the real-life events that inspired the 2001 film. Shout out to anyone that owned that on DVD back in the day. Warfare mode has a handful of different maps currently and 2 different ways to play. Both modes involve large-scale warfare between 2 teams, and just like in Battlefield, you'll be assigned into a squad of 4. You can pick whichever specialist operator you want as long as you have unlocked them via player XP. Each has its own special equipment and ultimate abilities, ranging from grenade launchers to throwing knives and recon arrows, because who doesn't love a bit of legitimate wall hacking? In the first game mode, we have Attack and Defend, similar to the Breakthrough game mode from Battlefield, where the attacking team has a limited number of respawns in the match to conquer all the capture points, while the defending team attempts to resist being pushed back off the map until the attackers have run out of respawns. The second mode is like Battlefield's Conquest and Call of Duty's Ground War modes. A mix of troops and vehicles go head-to-head on an epically proportioned domination map. Each team attempts to control most of the capture points to rack up score. Progress in Delta Force is reasonably fast for unlocking the weapons and operators. Graphics performance is pretty good, and the actual polish of the game, especially considering this is free, is absolutely amazing. You could easily play this alongside Battlefield 2042 or any other AAA title and not really understand why one of these games is free, but this one's $60. Battlefield 6 better pull its socks up, that's all I'm saying. It plays very similarly to how Battlefield games play. There might be a hint of copycat going on here. Sorry, strong inspiration. You can solo it with random squad. The gunplay feels nice and you can have a modest impact on the outcome of the game, unless you're Captain Battlefield himself and manage to dominate the leaderboard, although that's certainly not been my experience in the game so far. Anyway, but team up with 2 to 3 mates and then you can have a riot. Combine the Assault, Engineer, Medic and Recon classes to really bounce off each other and turn the tide of the battle. Or just have a really good laugh. The Black Hawk Down campaign missions are a full player versus experience story that follows the plot of the film. A little while ago it was updated so that you can now play solo rather than being forced to queue with a squad. I've had a bit of a dabble on both solo and with randoms, and I will say that this still feels better with a squad. The need to rearm, heal, revive, it's all part of squad play. Doing it solo is really punishing. It's good that it's going for a slower, more brutal milsim way of playing, but it's a bit hard plodding through, having to take on an entire Somali militia on your own when you can get downed in only 1 or 2 shots. I might well revisit Black Hawk Down, but those were my first impressions, and I would consider it a bonus add-on to the game, rather than a core part of the game anyway, as all the replayability comes from the multiplayer. And the mode that has been grabbing me the most is the Extraction mode, Operations. I last played this game for a limited time almost a year ago, so I firmly consider myself a noob, but I've quickly been getting completely sucked into this mode and I want to play it more and more. It's got the kind of feel and mission structure that Call of Duty's DMZ had, but with a bit more depth to it, like Escape from Tarkov, without it becoming disgustingly difficult for beginners and casual players to pick up. They've made it a bit hardcore, but not too hardcore. Just hardcore enough. The aim is to infill into the map, complete mission objectives and loot rare items and crafting materials before extracting safely with the goods. You can use the loot to either make yourself more powerful or level up your home base, your black site. There is a vast array of choice available in terms of how you play. It's trios only until they hopefully introduce a solos mode, but I've been so accustomed to inflicting pain upon myself by playing Warzone, I've mostly been playing with squad fill off as a solo. And I absolutely love it. It took me a couple of games to get into it. There's a little bit to figure out, the way all the upgrades work, how the missions and crafting works, and ultimately what some of the good tactics are so that you can enter the match solo and manage to get out without losing all your valuable equipment to the first person you see every single time. But that depth is good. It's additional challenge and adds to the feeling of achievement and satisfaction. You will die. Probably a fair bit, at least to start with, especially as a solo. But there is an abundance of free and cheap kit available to you when you're learning without having to worry too much. But as you progress and attempt raids with greater stakes, it's that risk that makes it such fun. Do you engage the AI bots for easy loot but potentially give yourself away? Do you go to the high value loot spots but risk encountering a trio of human crack commandos? Or do you even fancy taking them on as the John Wick of Delta Force and reaping all the loot they've kindly collected for you? Did I mention you'll die a lot? But it's so fun and I genuinely want to get back into the game right now. So consider hitting that subscribe button for my upcoming Delta Force content and join me on my noob journey to glory. The game was originally due to release on console at the start of 2025, but the devs wanted to make sure the tricky addition of controller functionality was up to scratch, and so they delayed it while they ironed out all the wrinkles. Obviously, the console release is now upon us, and I'm happy to reveal that controller actually works really well. No guarantees about the skills of the person using the controller, but the workman can't be blaming his tools on this occasion. Aim assist is present, but it's not like COD aim assist. It's much more balanced for those folks who use controller the majority of the time, in my opinion. And I'll commend Timmy Studios for making that difficult call to delay the console release and get it right, because it means that if you're playing for the first time on controller, on console, you're in for a really well implemented port instead of some bodged mishmash because they wanted to rush it out the door. The default button mapping is really intuitive, but also fully customizable if you want to tweak it. And a bit I thought would be the most difficult, inventory management in the operations mode, well, I think controller works just as good as mouse and key. And I was being absolutely ham-fisted with it, but I was just the same on keyboard for the first several games while learning the controls a bit. You can manage infantry entirely using the buttons, but you can also use the analog sticks to very closely match the way it works with a mouse. So we've covered the basics of the game, the fact that I'm currently going down a rabbit hole of the operations mode, and the cherry on the cake being that the controller works spot on. But how do you get this game for free? Well, it's simply going to be a PlayStation or Xbox Store free download. However, you can pre-order the game now for a tenner with some bundled cosmetics and XP tokens. Now, I'm not going to say don't do that, but be aware you get loads of free stuff constantly chucked at you when playing by completing a multitude of events and challenges. And there's a lot. Almost a confusing amount, if I'm honest. And if, like me, you've got a bit of OCD about clearing all the little new item icons you get in-game, you might have to make your peace with doing it just once at the end of a game session. Otherwise, you'll spend more time receiving prizes than you will playing the actual game. The cosmetics in the store are a separate premium currency to the in-game loot currency for buying weapons and equipment, so there is no pay to win either. It's just pay to look good. Debatable. Anyway, I just wanted to keep this quick and whet your appetite. I'll be going into more detail and uploading proper gameplay in upcoming videos, but right now, perhaps you'd like to check out this one.